Sandy Wiley. Today, to take a little break from Carl Jung, one of my subscribers said, why not talk about Erik Erikson, the German psychologist? So I thought, why not? Now, I don't know how many people out there are aware that he had 8 stages of development. I knew that about him. I didn't know, I had a vague idea about each stage. I didn't know them precisely. I did study him because he was part of my Psych 101. So we're going to do a little bit talking about those 8 stages of development. And the first one is trust versus mistrust. This is from when we're born to about 1 year old. I'm going to talk about another psychologist too while I'm talking about Erikson, talking about trust versus mistrust. And that's Watson. And here's why I'm going to bring him in. Now, Erikson is saying when you're an infant, you are helpless. All your needs are dependent on your caretaker, your mother or father or whoever's taking care of you. And since you have no language, how do you convey that? Through crying, If you're wet, you need a diaper change. If you're hungry, you need a bottle or a breast. If you're cold, you need a blanket. You see what I'm saying? But you can't say, hey, Mom, I'm hungry. Can you bring that bottle out of the fridge? Or, hey, Mom, this diaper is pretty soaked. When's the last time you changed it? Can you at least change it? You have no words, right? So how does an infant convey that they're hungry or they're wet or they're cold? Or maybe they just need a hug. I'm feeling lonely in here, Mom. Hey, do you think you could come in and pay a little attention and give me a hug and a kiss? See? So the infant cries because that's their only way of communicating dissatisfaction. They cry and they cry. Now, why I brought Watson in is because Watson believed you should let the infant cry. Can you believe that guy's an idiot, okay? Watson was the one who did the experiment on the baby little Albert. Have you ever heard of little Albert? Well, the psychologist Watson did an experiment, and he was very mean, okay? He put this little baby Albert in a room with the white rats. And little Albert wasn't afraid of the rat at all. But just like with Pavlo and his dog, every time the rat came near baby Albert, and baby Albert wanted to reach out and pet the rat, because, children learn fear. They learn it. They naturally don't have any fears. Don't you wish you could go back to that stage where you don't have any fears? They learn fears. So just like with Pavlo and the dog, Watson had his assistants hit this or clang this, I don't know what it was, they made a bad noise, a very loud noise, every time the rat came near the little baby Albert. And as a result, he startled at the noise, and he grew afraid of the rat because it was a loud, harsh noise. I don't know what they used. I mean, I didn't, read it verbatim, So, little Albert learned to be afraid of rats because he was conditioned, just like Pavlov's dog. Now, what is this going to do back with Erik Erikson's in the trust versus mistrust? Because after a while, if the baby keeps crying and no one comes, he learns not to trust. I can't trust mommy to help me. My cries, mommy doesn't care about me crying, or if I have a wet diaper, or if I'm hungry, or if I'm cold, or maybe I just need a hug. Mommy doesn't care, so I'm like crying my lungs out. I'm worn out physically, and I just drop to sleep because I'm physically, mentally, and worn out. Watson thought that was a good idea. He thought that that's what parents shouldn't run and check on their babies. But this is what Erik Erikson is saying. At this stage, infancy, this is where the child learns to trust or mistrust. And the ones who have attentive parents that go in the room and find out, let me check the diaper. Nope, it's dry. Oh, let me try to feed you. Are you hungry? Let me try to cradle you. Who care enough to do that, they're going to learn trust. Those babies will learn trust. So Watson, as you see, that's why I brought him up, was teaching babies how to mistrust. And his theory, if you read about him, it's all wrong in my eyes. It's dead wrong. So I hope that, I don't remember back then, but as a mother, as parents, me and my husband, if our babies cried, we went to them. We didn't, we went to them. We changed them. We fed them. My husband, because Alex was very colicky, walked figure eights around our living room and dining room just to calm him down. So it's very important if you're future parents or thinking about becoming parents, really. That stage is where they learn to trust or mistrust. Now the second one is autonomy versus shame and doubt, which is from the years 1 to 3. At this age, little kids or toddlers are trying to do things on their own, right? They're learning that I'm a separate person, from mommy and daddy. They're learning to walk at this age, right? 1 to 3, you're learning to walk. You're learning to, maybe put on your shoes, or you're learning to do things on your own. Now, if you're encouraged to do this independently, then you're going to learn autonomy. But if you're not, then you're going to learn shame and doubt. Now, my aunts, my father's siblings, they were horrible. Horrible. When I used to visit them, and I'd be like a grown teenager, I don't know, 15, 16, whatever. I wasn't a little kid back then. My aunt would say, oh, don't let her do that. She can't do that. Do that for her. What does that teach? Does that teach autonomy? No. That teaches shame and doubt. Oh, I can't do this, And I think you should foster that for your child, not just like at 1 to 3 years old. Like, I think that you should foster your child to try to do things on their own for their whole life. I mean, let them at least try, right? Developmentally, you know what I mean? I'm not saying let your 7-year-old try to drive the car. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like when they're walking, right? You got to let them try to walk or climb the stairs. Sure, they're going to fall down. What about riding a bike? But that's much older. But anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. Let the child have a little autonomy. Let them, try things. Encourage them. Instead of, always doing for them, then they're never going to learn. The next stage, initiative versus guilt, age 3 to 6. That's when you encourage your child to have different interests, to follow their interests, what they're involved in. Like our son, I think he was 6, he wanted to do martial arts. So we said, sure, you want to do martial arts? And as he got older, he became really tall. He's 6'3", and he's a real hefty big, strong man. And a lot of people say, why doesn't he, go for a basketball, or why don't he go to football? I mean, why don't you sign your son up for that? And I go, because he doesn't want it. I'm not discouraging him to do anything, but I'm going to encourage my son to do the things he's interested in. So at that age, he was interested in martial arts. Fine. You want to do martial arts? We joined it. We signed him up for martial arts. We got him the uniform. He went years. We got him weapons, really expensive weapons, the whole 9 yards, whatever he wanted. We encouraged him. In fact, we did that throughout his life, encouraged him to pursue whatever he wanted. What school do you want to go to? I want to go to this school. Okay. I want to go to this grammar school. I want to go to this high school. I want to go to this college. Whatever he wanted, we encouraged. We never discouraged our son. So, encourage your son at that age, initiative versus guilt, because you don't want to guilt trip your son because he's not interested in something, And if he's a boy and he wants to do something, you think, oh, that's sissy, that's for girls, he wants to take up dancing, so be it. Let him dance. Let him take dance classes. Let him take ballet. Whatever. Some of these parents are horrible. Like, no son of mine is going to take that, or is going to take up knitting. See what I'm saying? Or cooking. That's a woman's job. I mean, I think I've got a leaf from my head. That's going to, make your son feel guilty, So you've got to let your child or daughter, son, pursue the avenue that they want to. Even if you don't think, oh, boys shouldn't do that or girls shouldn't do that. Get rid of that crap. Get rid of it, okay? Didn't I have another video about that? Pink for girls, blue for boys, all that bull crap, Or girls play dolls and boys do trucks. That's all bull crap. Just get rid of it, The next one, industry versus inferiority. That's 7 through 11. I guess it's, what can I say about that one through 7-11? Well, going out and trying new things, versus, because some things that you don't do well in, you can feel inferior. I think you should always encourage your child to, even if they're not good at something, if they're interested, they should still, let them make mistakes. That's what I'm saying. Let them make mistakes. And tell them that's how they're going to learn, and they shouldn't feel inferior because they make mistakes, That's what I'd sum that up to, At that age, 7 and 11, they're trying out new things, and they're not always going to be good at it, right? They tried for Little League. I didn't get called on the team. Okay, well, you tried. Maybe you will next time, Don't give up. That kind of thing. The next one is identity versus confusion. Age 12 to 18. That's when you become social. That's when you develop a social life. That's when it starts soaring, from 12 to 18. You start making those lifelong friends. Many people still have them. I don't. If you do, kudos. You're awesome. If you still have friends from, But that's the age, it was for me, 12 to 18, when I started making friends. Started exploring a social life. I didn't really you start dating, right? Well, not at 12 exactly, but it says 12 to 18, so, that's when you start becoming friends with the opposite sex, even if you're not dating. And, I guess your sexuality comes out during that time. And that's why it says identity versus confusion. That's when a lot of people kind of like figure out if they like the same sex people sexually or the opposite sex, whether they're gay or heterosexual or straight or homosexual. I think this is the stage where they kind of have an idea. They have an idea, or they've figured it out. Maybe they haven't figured it completely out, but they kind of like have an idea at this age whether they like, if they're sexually attracted to the same sex or the opposite sex. And of course, that's why it's saying your identity versus confusion, because it can be a lot of confusion because you hear conflicting things from your parents. I wasn't that type of parent. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I wouldn't mind if my son wanted to have a relationship with a man instead of a woman if he was interested in men. As long as he's happy, as long as he picks someone who treats him well. That's what I care about. Does this person have respect for you? Are they treating you well? But, society tells you one thing. Your parents tell you another thing. So you get confused. You get confused with yourself, like, at this age. Gee, all my friends like boys, but I don't. I like girls, or, So I think this is a very difficult age, all right? That intimacy, no, that's the next stage. The identity versus confusion, 12 to 18. I think this is one of the most difficult stages. That one right there. Because I think you're trying to figure out your sexuality, your identity. How do you identify as? And like today, with transgender, people can be born a woman, but they identify as a man. And vice versa, So I think that's a very difficult time. You're trying to figure it out, and it can be confusing. You're not sure, Society and your parents are telling you, you need to get married. Well, they told me. And you need to like boys, but what if part of you doesn't really feel that way? You can feel confused and ashamed, and to me, that's the most difficult stage, that one. Now, the next stage is intimacy versus isolation, age 19 to 29, when we usually try to, find a partner and get married, settle down, have intimate relationships, like try to be monogamous, try to find someone to go through life with, So that's why it says intimacy versus isolation. If you don't have a partner, I'm going to tell you, I think it's difficult. I'd never want to not have someone. I would never want to live alone. And I'm not saying that I think people should get married. I mean, look at The Odd Couple. Two divorced men living together. I would never want to live alone. Like, if I got divorced or something, I'd want to move in with my son. Or if I had a best friend, gal pal, and she was divorced or something. You see, I think that you need, for me, you need your alone time, but I wouldn't want to live alone. I wouldn't want to come home to empty house and have no one I could talk to about what's on my mind. What happened, What happened today? And share a meal with a person. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a romantic, I'm not saying that, but a lot of people are happy like that. But I don't see that for myself. That's all I'm saying. But at 19 to 29, you're trying to figure out, do you want to get married and have kids, or do you want to stay single? And you're getting into intimate relationships with people, and longer term relationships than you did when you were younger. And so you're trying to figure out, what path do you want to take? Do you want to settle down, or do you want to travel the world and explore and be single and never marry? I know people like that. My yoga teacher, well, she got married, but she doesn't want to have any children, Absolutely not. That's her choice. She wants to travel. But anyway, so the next thing is generativity versus stagnation at 30 to 64. And this is what I quote that stage as: use it or lose it. That's not what Erik Erikson said. That's what I say. Use it or lose it. Between when you're 30 to 64, you've got to stay active, or you'll stagnate. And I mean active everywhere. Active in your work, active in your social life, in sports, in your sex life. You've got to. All I can think of when I saw that stage, the 7 stages, use it or lose it. Okay, and that's what I think when because you will get stagnant if you don't in anything. If you don't practice, a sport, say you play tennis and you don't, or golf, you get rusty, right? So I think it's a very healthy for people that age to be active physically, active mentally, active sexually. Just use it or lose it. That's what I say. And the last stage is integrity versus despair when you're over 60, over 65, whatever it is. If you thought you've lived a well life, you're going to be happy and content. If you're not, you're going to be a grumpy old man. You ever see that movie, Grumpy Old Men? Like at that age, I know probably no one watching my videos is at that stage. So I don't want to be talking too much about that, because that's the last stage anyway, because no one is probably going over 65 watching my videos. Even though I'm close to 60, I looked at my demographics, and most people are like 20s and 30s, and most of them are men who watch my videos. So, but all I'm going to give you this piece of advice. I'm going to leave you with this piece of advice for the last stage. Live a productive life, one that when you do get older, you can look back on and feel somewhat proud of, that you've accomplished whatever it is that you wanted to do, And you can start that out at any age. What is it? How are you going to leave your imprint on this world? Because when you die, that's what I think. When I die, how did I leave my mark on this world? That's when I think of that last stage, that integrity versus despair, I think of that. I want to leave a mark on this world, okay? Well, not just through having children, I want to leave my own imprint. Well, I write these books, I do these YouTube videos, and when I'm dead, they'll still be up. My books will still be out there, When I die, what I say, my poetry will still be out there. So that's my imprint. See, as a writer, it's kind of like they say writers are immortal. Why do they say writers are immortal? Because I can be dead for decades, centuries, and my words, what I said, what I thought, are still out there for the masses. And that's how I left my imprint. And that's important to me, because I feel I do have a voice. I feel like I do have something important to say. And that's why I write the books. I share my experiences with people so they can learn through my personal experiences. Learn about mental illness, learn about borderline personality, learn about schizophrenia, learn about, abusive parents and how they affect children and adults. Just learn about bad psychology, bad therapists. That's my imprint. So to me, that last stage, integrity versus despair, to me, I sum it up as leaving your imprint on the world. And now I will end the video of Erik Erikson. If there's any other psychology or any other topics that you want me to talk about, feel free to tell me in the comments. and look it up. And if I think I can do it justice, if I have a little knowledge of it, then I'll do it. Okay.